Greetings, and welcome to The Thirsty Mage, the podcast that's not surprised the magicians over at Mistwalker found a way to get us excited about a mobile game. I am your host, and someone who has never been happier to be part of the Apple ecosystem, David Lloyd. And in this episode, we have a special guest to help us talk about the latest game to come from the living legend, Hironobu Sakaguchi. The first half of Fantasian is now available on Apple Arcade, and we'll be discussing how this title plays like a callback to the PlayStation 1 era, and at first glance anyway, but actually contains a slew of modern ideas and inventive mechanics. Joining me after potentially destroying her mom's iPad in the process of preparing for this episode, it's Paige Detlefson.
She'll be happy to get it back until I need to borrow it when the second half comes out again.
So I guess you didn't miss it too much I guess it was like 2 months you had it there.
Yeah. Finally finished it last week though.
And most of our listeners will recognize her as the localization editor for Trails in the Sky, Rune Factory 4, Xanadu Next, and just a few of the many terrific RPGs she's worked on, including Fantasian. It's Jessica Chavez.
Hi.
How's it going over in Japanland?
It's very hot and very strange with the Olympics coming up, but hey, we're hanging in there.
Yeah, we had our hot streak a week ago, and just our air conditioning ended up breaking at the exact same time, and because it's the pandemic, nobody wants to come out and fix it. So
no, how bad?
It's not. We only had like 2 or 3 days where it hit like 30. It felt like 34, 35 with the humidity.
Ooh.
Yeah, so not too bad. But then we got a cold streak this week, so I don't think it'll be too bad, but I think we're gonna have to wait a little bit longer before we can convince someone to come out to the boonies to repair a heat pump.
Oh, it's a shame. But I mean, it does cool off quite a bit.
Yeah, it's mostly just the humid nights that's the problem, so it's not too bad. Once we get through July, August is usually rainy, so it should be alright.
Huh. We're supposed to be in the middle, or at least the end of our rainy season here, and it just hasn't really happened. It's been very on and off. It's been kind of a strange year weather-wise.
Been pretty dry for us, too. I guess Paige must be in the middle of winter. Whatever the Aussie winter's considered.
Well, it's been raining more than I'm used to. Like, it's not all the time, but my fiance was asking, like, does it normally rain this much in winter? And it's annoying because we have a dog now, so it's like, can't take her for walks, so I've got to keep her inside because she likes sitting out in the rain.
Oh, I always found that strange about Australia, that the winter rain I found quite miserable. Like, it felt really chilly.
Yeah, well, I think it was, the houses are built to keep the heat out, so winter is just like too cold.
I agree.
You know, it's not even like cold enough to snow or anything. Like, it's only 15 C and a bit under, depending like further into winter. But that still feels really cold to me.
I'm with you. Hate cold weather.
Well, one of the great things about the summer weather is you get to cool off with a nice brew. And I know, Jessica, you were kind enough to bring us a brew that you can only... Oh, yeah, a Japanese brew. That's the first time we've had one on the show.
Well, may I introduce you to the Awaji beer. This is a Weizen from Awajishima, which is pretty close to me. And I used to play soccer there when I lived in Japan last time. It's a really nice brewery. Should be a good summer beer.
Yeah, especially a Weizen. They're definitely what I go for in the summer. It's like a good sipping beer, you know, out when you're sweating a little bit in the sun.
Just the thing. And it actually, drinking this now is probably a bit strange for a work day, but I've only got creative stuff this afternoon. But it did remind me to eat lunch. I keep forgetting to eat lunch, and then around 3 p.m. I'm suddenly really dizzy and hungry and tired, and I don't know why. But made sure to have some food this time.
Yeah, you definitely want to have something to eat sometimes if you're having a beer or two. So.
And only the finest of Japanese snacks. This is Jujutsu Kaisen. It's like a new...
I've heard of it.
It's really good. Like, I think people should watch it. And they got me. This was at the Konbini, and I bought it impulsively because these are my 2 favorite characters.
What food is in that?
It's kind of like fried soba noodles. It's not my favorite, but I mean, I had to buy it. Yeah, they're a bit strange. Really crispy, really salty. They're good with beer. I'll give it that.
It's just like Paige with Final Fantasy 14 trying to track down those Butterfingers.
Yeah. Did you get them?
Yeah, my sibling's dating an American, so I sent her $5 and was like, buy the Butterfinger.
The things we do.
Yeah. Well, the code itself wasn't region locked, so I had to get it.
So did you get just the code, or did they send the Butterfinger too?
So what you do is you got to buy, I don't know if it's still on, but you had to buy $5 worth of Butterfingers, and then redeem do the receipt onto the website, and then you'll get the code, and you put that in the normal gift code section of Workstation.
That's a lot of work.
That is a lot of work. Was it worth it?
Yes, it's a very cute mount.
Hey.
Has little bubbles and stuff going around it.
And here I'm still running around on my chocobo like a chump.
Well, they're redoing the event with the Final Fantasy 15 car soon, so you might have to head up to the casino to get enough MGP to buy it.
Well, if it's gonna be Final Fantasy 15, then yeah, I'll jump on that. That's one of my I like that game. I know it's not the most well-liked Final Fantasy, but still one of my favorites.
I thought people liked it okay.
Yeah, it might just be the circle I run with. Maybe they just give me a hard time. I don't know. But one game I definitely did enjoy that we're going to be talking about tonight is Fantasian.
Yay!
Wonderful game.
It is.
And I don't know, Paige, as the one who just recently finished it, did you want to kick off your initial impressions of what you thought of it?
Well, it's really pretty, like the diorama kind of world that they took photos of, and then maps so that the characters could run in it. I did initially think that maybe the characters could have looked a bit more doll-like to fit it, but after a while I got pretty used to it and I think they look good. I think my favourite bits are just the combat in general, like how you can arc the move so it hits multiple targets.
So
especially good for touchscreen controls.
Mm.
And the Digimension, I don't know, I didn't type it right on the thing.
Dimension.
The bit where you put the bit where you put them away for a little bit, so then you can come back and fight them all, and then you've got all the attack buffs and everything. I really like the combat. I think it's really cool. And I was initially interested in the game because of how it looked, because people were showing off before it released, the dioramas and that. And that reminded me that I actually used to want to get into doll housing, but I don't know if I have room for that now.
Jessica, were you able to see the dioramas in person at any point, or?
I haven't yet. They're all up in Tokyo, and travel between the two has been really difficult. I haven't been allowed to go up north since December of 2019. That was the last time I got to go to Tokyo. And I'm desperate to see them in person. They are just gorgeous.
Yeah, that's one of the things that stood out for me was just how beautiful everything looks, and I love the development. I know Mistwalker is tweeting out videos of them making the dioramas, which I think is really neat. Especially because they get really in close with the high def cameras and stuff and show them actually how much detail really goes into it. It's just incredible.
It's insane. The shots that I've seen, and I've seen additional ones to what they've actually been putting out, they're individual tiny books stacked on each other. The flowers, you can see the petals. If you look on the walls and say the houses or the bars, there are paintings on those walls. A lot of the buildings have looks like really cool glasswork and ironwork. The details, indescribable. It is so amazing, what they've done with this.
Yeah, that's why all the houses look awesome, because they're just the dollhouse type miniatures. It's I love the captain's room too.
Yeah.
Shark jaw.
Cheryl's bedroom in particular, the amount of attention to detail on that is just incredible. The itty bitty dresser drawers, and then the great big bed and flowers on everywhere. And the way just the use of colors and stuff in that particular one too is just pretty amazing. They must have these little itty bitty pins that they're just making. It's just, I don't know, the amount of time that must go into making those set pieces just it staggers my mind. My
favorite part of her room though is there's a comment or something when you look at a bottle of water and saying how it looks very expensive, and I was just I tweeted it with Fiji water or something.
It's just it looks expensive but tastes normal.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, they had a lot of fun with the asides. If you go around in the buildings, there's always something to read or somebody makes some kind of comment. And especially if you do investigate those little details, like the ones you were talking about. There's a house in Vents, if you check out their cutting board, there's a fish on it. And you can't see because the camera doesn't zoom in, but I've seen other photos of it, and there are lines on the fish to show the scales. That's how close in they got there to make those details.
I think they even make a comment about how the room smells, too. With the dead fish.
There's a lot of smelling going on in this game.
Yeah.
I think Events was my only question about, like, the localization, because, like, was that the Japanese name? It was just funny when I walked into it, it was just funny because it was, like, Vents, like, just missing one letter off it.
It was from the Japanese, and it's very much intentional. It completely apes Venice. In a lovely way.
I see a lot of games do that, but I just thought it was funny that this one was just like Vents.
There you go.
Homage, right? The homage, when you're
They do. They have a lot of little details about Vents too with the names. That adds a little bit of backstory. Like there's an inn in N, which I presume an NPC from Vents has moved their business to N, and the inn is called the Pecora Inn. So they've got like Italian names for little things throughout.
Oh, that's crazy. And have you been able to, like, obviously you wouldn't be playing the game while you're localizing. So when afterwards, like, were you able to actually play through the entire game yourself?
I actually did get to play while localizing.
Oh, really? Oh, man. Even better.
That would make it a tiny bit easier, would it?
It makes it so much easier. I mean, this isn't something you get to do very much, especially as a freelancer. You don't have access to a game or build. But this one, we had access to local builds that we could play while we were doing text, and we could actually upload our text into the game to see how it displayed. Ooh. So we could make changes on the fly. And I did get to play through the whole game before we passed in our final text. And then I played as a consumer afterwards just to see how it was, to make sure everything was in properly. Which was really hard. I need debug cheats.
Yes. It's like the future. Is that because of the platform that it was on? Like, or was that just something Mistwalker thought was important?
It's something our localization producer thought was really important, Mikey. He talked to Mistwalker, and they had this available for their own team and stuff, but he pushed to make it available for us too, so that the localization would be up to par. I mean, if you've got the context right there, you can nail your pass on the first go. It's really tough if you've only got files. So he pushed hard for that, and we had this amazing streaming text tool, which I never get to use, and I'm still excited about it.
That's great. It might be one of those things that the next job you're on, it might be hard to go back though, right?
Super hard. It's really been a dream project in terms of having access to tools that help you work on your text, access to the dev team to ask questions. I mean, I got to see a lot of development stuff while they were planning it out, and that helped me plan for the English. Like, I could work on the glossary and all the terminology before we even started work on the text. It saves you so much time. It really makes a big difference on a project.
That's good. Yeah, I know for me, one of the big draws for me was just the fact that Mistwalker was making the game. Because like I'm from the NES days. That was my first console. So Final Fantasy is one of my big games. Then probably played it through 100 times. I joke that I could probably walk you through the entire game just like over the phone. Like I just played it so much that it's ingrained into my brain. So I'm a big fan of Sakaguchi games. And I missed a few in the, like, when he left Square. I was able to catch up on a couple, like The Last Story. I was able to play recently, which was great. And so glad. It's basically I missed the Xbox. I didn't have an Xbox at the time. So, but it was just neat seeing how like, because he's from an older generation, like obviously the first games that came out, and he has a very unique, like a style that kind of continues on throughout the games. But to see that he was able to evolve, like you had said, with the Dimension, I can't pronounce it either.
Dimension.
Yeah, it's like, to me, that's just a very forward-thinking way of solving an old RPG problem. Like, how many people go back to old RPGs and complain about the random battles and there being too many? And like, we just played a couple recently. Can't think of what it was. Star Ocean.
Oh.
We just played Star Ocean First Departure a couple months ago, and that was one of my bigger beasts. It felt like every 3 seconds you were in another random battle, and it's so having this system set up where it's like the random battles are still there, but they're just kind of banking in them, I guess, banking up the enemies, and then having that one battle against like up to 30.
Yeah.
And it's even a more fun battle, like it doesn't feel like a grind. It just feels like a really fun use of mechanics and a little more tactile and stuff. Like Paige had mentioned, like the ability to
like line them up.
arc, and line them up and arc and stuff. I was actually reading a review where they compared it to James McAvoy and Wanted with the arcing of the bullet. I thought that was a funny comparison.
It's kind of spot on though. And it's so much fun when you stack up like 30, a crazy amount of enemies, and you start hitting with those all attack areas. It blows up. There was one guy on Twitter who posted he managed to reach one of the tension skills, and you get this nice cinematic with it. And it just annihilates everything. It's the most satisfying feeling.
I got that too. I didn't notice it at first, and you can actually take, like, if you choose one of the other paths, it actually allows you to like unlock it and get the job points back so that you can apply it back to the other path. So that was once I realized there was one there. I think I even might have seen it on Twitter. Somebody might have posted a video. I was like, no, I got to see that. So I got it, and it's a beautiful cinematic. It actually reminded me of I played Final Fantasy Brave Exvius. It's like a mobile game. I gave it a try, and less said about that one the better. But one of my favorite things about that game was they had this a similar thing where you could get to a point where there was like a special attack, and it has like a beautiful, like a nice montage of like magical things happening. So I thought that was a really nice touch, and the fact that it comes at the end of the game, it almost was like a preview of like you don't really see the job system until the very, very end, and then it's like it's like a tease.
Tantalizing.
When it popped up, I'm like, oh, that feels a bit late. Come on.
I know it was a bit of
like, especially if it's, I don't know how, it's going to be 2 parts, but I don't know whether it's going like, half and a half. And I was like, nearly halfway through the game and you get the skill tree is interesting.
It's definitely a sneak peek at all the fun you're going to have in part 2, because, I mean, you guys have played Final Fantasy X, I presume.
Yeah.
That skill tree. I love it. Can't get enough of it. And it is very pretty. Like, their UI is really nice on this game. So I'm glad people are liking the look of it. And there's a lot of things to get in that tree, so.
Yeah. I contemplated grinding to see what I could get in the tree, but then got very worried that I get locked out at some point where it's like, no, we didn't really mean you to sit there and like put hours into grinding to see what's here. So I didn't want to risk it. But yeah, it looks really interesting. That was one of the things about the game is, I don't know if Paige thought the same way, but there was one battle, like right before the job system opens, there's a particular story point that I was like, okay, this must be the end of the game. And then you kept going.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay.
But wait, there's more.
Yeah. But it felt like initially I was like, they should have just ended it back then. But then getting the job system opened and then giving you that extra, like there was extra story parts in the very, like basically after that point that I think it really helps sell the, getting geared up for like, okay, when's part 2 coming? Yeah, I think it does a good job with that.
Yeah, it definitely leaves you anticipating what's going to come next. Because it is not over, and there's a whole lot more left. A lot.
My favorite character was Ez, I think, kid.
Yay!
Yeah, I liked using all his stuff. Although I had to, then I was actually spending my money because I needed to keep supplying myself.
I want to say, this game, you guys, nobody needs to hoard their items. Ez can make everything and anything. You can get more items. So I'm begging people to please use items and not stock them up for like a rainy day. That's something.
Well, I can't because I'm just using Ez all the time, so it's just like I'm like running out. But that's why I like the machines where you like convert things, because then I can get rid of stuff I don't need to get what I want.
Yeah,
Much easier.
It's a good system.
Well, that's one of the things about the Fantasian is it felt like it was more of a character development style game. Like it wasn't so much about the overarching story, but it was more about the developing characters throughout the game. And I was telling Paige when we were first like playing through it that initially I was a little put off by the use of amnesia, because I was like, okay,
Like I suspected it was just because he clearly knew stuff that we didn't want to know at that point in the story, and then he, like it did happen so we were able, so it was more of a mystery from him having amnesia. Otherwise, I guess it'd probably be very different if he just knew what was happening straight away.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a bit of a trope, definitely, but I think in this game it's executed really well. Like, it doesn't overwhelm it, and it doesn't hold him back, and it's really funny. Like, Leo is the butt of so many jokes. I just find it really entertaining.
He's picked on.
And Cheryl goes hard at him for these.
I mean, I would too if I got stood up, but she does seem to be particularly upset sometimes.
I think he deserves it.
Yeah.
That whole storyline with how they met was interesting because it's to the point where you kind of wonder like what actually happened, because it seems like they each had their own version of how they met.
Pretty much.
Speaking of when the robots ask whose heart made go badump, which girl did you go for?
That was such a weird thing to localize, because it was just like Doki Doki, which is just a heartbeat. So I was like, what do we call this?
Badump.
The ba-bump, ba-bump. There's a big discussion. Should we do ba-bump, ba-dump? It's just silliness. Who did you choose?
I went with Cheryl, because first girl. Yeah. I think he might like Kino more, but I'm just like... And then it was so funny, because she got like this extra passive skill or something, and I was like, oh no, this is like serious consequence. And then it was just like prickle and clickle, like you more, and I'm like, okay.
That's kind of cute.
But I did go back and like save before I got asked the question again, just an extra slot.
Oh, who did you pick, David?
Well, I went with Cheryl just because I felt like, I don't know if it's so much that like she deserved to get it, in the sense that like it seemed like she went through more, but it almost seemed like she was more like she'd be more excited to be the one, or what, like Kina. Yeah, I don't know, like Kina didn't. I see, like they were definitely, there was some buildup of like a romantic entanglement there, but it didn't feel. Some of it didn't feel like as romantic. Like it seemed like more of like Cheryl was more into it into a relationship for me. So that's why I ended up going with her.
She's definitely pretty forward about it, but I like that personality trait with her. She's really entertaining.
Well, she knows what she wants. So
she's a true queen.
Yeah, strong character. The Zinniker, I guess is. Always was getting thrown off by some of the names, but he had some funny lines too. He seemed like a little too open with a few things, and definitely played that awkward character.
Because I read pretty fast, so times where I saw a bit of dialogue on a screenshot, but I missed it, and I was like, oh no.
Zinniker's like
just say things.
Yeah, he's like a kid in an old man's body. Like when him and Az get together, their banter's pretty great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just keep poking each other.
So were there very many situations, like you said, with trying to convert heart thumping sounds from Japanese to English? Is there any other types of the puzzles like that stand out for you for this game?
I mean, there were some struggles in terms of like because things can't have to be viewed on an iPhone. Character limits were a big issue here. We often had to chop things exponentially to get them to fit. And we'd have certain, like monsters, for instance, there's a Mecteria blob-ish monster that you fight at one point, and the actual boss name is about 5 kanji long, and it was sort of infernal beast of purgatory death devil.
Oh,
It's like, how can I get that into 20 characters? And not only that, there was an even sort of more advanced version, and that had to have even more details in the name. So you get these really sort of fancy, interesting sounding beast names, and you have to really boil them down. I think we ended up going with like bacterial blob, because that's all I could fit.
I would have just been like all the letters of the words and then not explain what they were.
We did have to do that quite a bit for like the passive skills. Some of them were.
Yeah.
We recently had one that was 16 kanji long, like a.
Oh my god.
And again, that has to fit in like 20 to 23 maybe, because there are different character limits for, say, on screen, for in the menus, etc. But it has to work for all of those. And so we had to use a lot of abbreviations, like all, null, weak, like WKN. It was really tough to get some of these to fit. But I mean, that's kind of a thing with any game. You're stuck with really tight limits.
Modern games, like, I try to put some characters' names in, and it's just like, nope, not enough room for.
Yep.
It's like, that's why I'm glad my name's only like 5 letters. So
Nice.
I can fit it in.
I didn't even think of it being on an iPhone. Because I played almost the majority of my playthrough on an iPad.
Mm.
And then I do have an Apple TV, like the one of the recent ones that has apps. So I was able to download it on that as well. But initially the way it's supposed to work is like you're supposed to be able to flip from any device and like your saves just follow you with you.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, it wasn't working on mine. And I actually called up Apple and be like, why isn't my game working? And they went through it and they couldn't figure out why there wasn't a connection. And then one day I just went in and it was there.
There was an update that I think specifically dealt with that issue. It only happened to a few people, but yeah, I think it's all pretty smooth now.
Yeah, all the saves ended up over there, so I was able to do it. But then I actually started to initially I started playing with the PS4 controller on my iPad. But then I switched over. I think like the battery died on the controller, so I'm like, well, I'll just try the touch controls. And I was actually quite surprised how nice they are,
right?
At least on my iPad.
No,
it was really easy to do the arcing and all the choosing. It was actually easier in the end.
I thought the integration was fantastic. Like whether or not you use a controller, because I'm also more comfortable playing with the controller, and that's what I was using to test it with and stuff. But when I played on the iPad as well, the touch works really great. Like all the movement, none of it is weird or different. Working on Apple stuff in terms of localization, there was one other aspect that I think was a bit different from console games. It's the visibility. Like how I said, you had to fit things in certain limits because they go a bit smaller. We also had to cap a lot of things that would be shown on screen versus just in menu so that they'd be easier for people to see. If you take a look at your menu, in the menu, the passive skills are just written lowercase or, capped and then lowercase. But when you use your player skills on the screen when you're fighting, everything's capped. That's so you can see it in battle, because your window when you're doing the battle is a lot tinier.
Yeah.
So there's little things, I think, between localizing for Apple stuff versus a PS4 that were different for me anyway.
Yeah, because I know, for the controller, I guess the thing with the controller was that I found it easier to just move the characters with the controller, but everything else was easier with the touchscreen.
I thought the drop pin moving was good. I actually because you can just, sometimes I could get them to go somewhere I couldn't quite figure out how to walk around myself, because I just dropped the pin and then they'd find a way. I have some other game I play in handheld a lot, Cozy Grove, and sometimes you tend to get stuck in places, so you just touch the touchscreen and then it'll auto get you out of where you were.
Well, that they also added, this is something they've added in for Fantasian that I haven't seen in other games. If you open the menu and if you look at the map screen, they've got all those arrows, the red arrows.
Yeah,
you just click
too.
that and your character will walk straight to it, which is amazing for when you're in the ooze around. You're like, I have no idea where I'm going. Please, just walk character.
Yeah, I did that in events a lot.
Yeah, eventually I didn't find that till near the end. I think I was in the chaos world and I was going through my inventory, because that very last boss was the hard, easily the hardest one in the game for me. So I was inventory management, trying to get as much healing spells or whatever I needed, or I guess without spoiling it, I needed a lot of antidotes. So yes. I was grinding to buy those.
In that fight, I did it the first try, but I basically had one character that was attacking, and then the rest were just healing and curing.
Yes.
And then it got you getting flooded, and I'm like, oh no. Looks cool though.
Yeah, that was a
I
tough
can't imagine
battle.
how pleasant it would be to be standing in that, to be imagine like fighting when you feel that sick, like that.
I liked that a lot of the bosses in Fantasian, like there was different ways to beat them, but a lot of them felt very strategic in the sense of like there was a particular strategy for a couple of them. Like there was the one, the bird type one that would like push you off the ledge. Like there was clearly a strategy they wanted you to employ, and being a guy, you got to be told about 3 times to do something. So I was like trying to do it my
You've
own
already
way.
fallen off the cliff at that point.
I was like falling off the cliff 3 times, and I'm like, okay, clearly the way I want to play this isn't going to work. What did they say again? And then somebody's like pointed out to me like attack, or I think Zinniker had to use taunt or something to make sure that they attacked him and not the bird. So after that, after I actually listened to the whoever it was that was in the game telling me how I should have done it, I ended up getting through it.
I found the strategy I needed the most was just to be patient, especially like a couple later fights, like the Sentinel or whatever, to get to red, like you could, because you don't see the health bar, but you can see like yellow, like the sort of halfway, and red, they're pretty close. So I'd get to red, so I'd just be trying to go all out, and instead of healing, and then wiped out.
No.
Instead of just taking a couple extra turns.
Yeah, but that is one of the nice updates. Like even though Fantasian has a very classic feel to it, they put stuff like the Dimension Machine, and the bosses are really fun because you can suss them out. You can either follow the clues they give you or just work out a strategy. It's not just, they're not sponges where you just hit them over and over until they eventually die. I did like that about them when I was playing normally and stuff, and I couldn't just, insta-kill everybody.
Yeah. Well, even like for that final boss, I ended up, I wanted to get a couple levels up anyway, and then I wanted to unlock the that cinematic move to do on the final boss as well, and the Digimin or whatever. I found that very, very useful for grinding, like because it only took maybe 3 or 4 30 enemies battles to even, like, I think I ended up going up 3 or 4 levels just in like the span of like 30-40 minutes. So it's like, just kind of walking around really fast and picking up all the enemies and then attacking them all. Again, like it's just a neat modern way of like, one of the things I see in the industry is that there seems to still be this like separation between like the older people who kind of like, they like their turn-based combat and they kind of like the old way that games played, and a little more resistant to, like, even now I find like a lot of the JRPGs are kind of moving more towards action RPGs. Like you don't see the turn-based system.
Old.
Yeah. I almost cried when I heard that the latest Trails is going to be an action, like a partly action RPG, the way they I guess still remains to be seen. Somebody was trying to tell me that they give you the choice between action or if you to go back to the turn-based, which I'm hoping for, but yeah, I just, again, with that having like, so Sakaguchi still has that grinding in there for the people that want to do it, but then for the people who are more like even like Fire Emblem, like it almost like that dimension almost feels like a Fire Emblem in a way where it's you're strategizing of like, okay, here's a line of enemies there, and then there's the the boost or the buffs that you want to catch at the same time because they're only their time limited, and sometimes you have to like sacrifice a turn to get one of those just to buff up the entire people. So
I found I didn't really need to grind in this game except for a couple times, because I would just go through and, fight the enemies when it filled up. So I think the only ones I had to grind for was like a little bit for one in like East Fence, or the Mictaria part of Vents, and then the golem around the hilly area I had to definitely, because I just walked into the fight and was like,
flat.
But other than that, I didn't really do any grinding outside of that because I would just fight them once they filled up. I guess in the toy boxes I did also trip like almost every security alarm on purpose too, so that might have counted as grinding, I don't know.
The toy boxes, I love Leo's obsession with security. It makes no sense. Like, who's hurt you, Leo? Why is everything why is it so deadly?
When it was like, what button every time, I'm like, red, or like left or whatever it was, just like, I kept picking the same one every time. Like,
nice.
I was like, it has to work.
Well, I love even the characters think the same thing too about like, You must be really paranoid.
Harris gives him so much for that in the toy box. He's like, what happened to you?
Yeah. Well, we haven't even talked about maybe my favorite troop in the game with, I don't even remember their names now, the Team Rocket.
Yeah.
Cinderella TriStars.
Yes, that's it.
Oh, they're such beautiful people. So beautiful.
Yeah. Well, and that's another teaser for part 2, I think, because we really don't even know their backstory. They're just like, they just show up and, we have a fight, and then they go on their merry way, and then if we find them again, we have another fight. But even those battles are pretty fun too, because it reminds me of there's like a tanky healer and an attacker. So again, a lot of strategy needed. Like you really have to utilize like the arc system, like to get around the big guy there with the shield.
Yeah.
And again, usually like I was going after the healer first. So you use those ones, and I think like even Zinneker had the one, like he almost kind of like a bomb, I guess, where it's like you could go over. It was allowing you to like hit the people behind without having to go through the tanks and stuff. So, but those three were hilarious. Like they totally, like as soon as I saw them, I'm like, okay, here's our Team Rocket.
They're amazing. They have the best dialogue in the game, and you do look forward to them in part 2 because there's a lot more where that came from.
Oh, that's good. I guess the other thing we haven't talked about too is how the music. Like I really enjoyed the music in Fantasian, which makes sense with Uematsu doing the music.
I liked a lot of the battle tracks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and the Team Rocket there, I enjoyed their. I think that was one of my favorite musical, like the battle theme for them and stuff. Like their little cinematic before the beginning and stuff.
Oh, that's cinematic. They originally had like really long poetry, rhyming lines and stuff, but it had to be trimmed quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be funny if it was like a special attack where one would just like read for too long or something. It's like asleep.
They get cut off.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll need a director's cut of it then. You're gonna have to convince them to post a director's cut, the full version on Twitter or something.
If you like the Cinderella TriStar, let them know. You never know.
Yeah. Is there any favorite moments or any favorite things that stood out for you, Jessica, that we haven't talked about?
I guess I could say some of working on the project in terms of having access to the dev team. Like our contact, Saho Nishikawa, she's one of the designers, and she's basically our point of contact. And any questions we had, we could directly ask the dev team and find out. And this is, normally mysterious information, like Ez's adopted father, Daggeroon. He's an old-looking guy, whatever, and he says in one of the lines, I've never felt younger in the Japanese, or I've never felt better kind of thing. And we wanted, a little bit of localization twist on that, and he's like, I haven't felt a day over whatever his age is. And originally we had, like, I haven't felt a day over 85. And we thought about, we're like, how old is this guy? And so we were able to pose this question to the dev team, and they were really confused, for one. Why are you asking? And he came back as, like, 54. I'm only 10 years, I'm like 15 years off now. What are you guys trying to say?
Wow. Well, that reminds me, like, I mean, well, he obviously just looked like an old guy, but then you see, like even say you got like Leo and like characters in other shows and games, like I still think white hair is old, even though we've got main characters with white hair that are very young. So when I say like Final Fantasy 14 turns out the Cid in that is like only 30, and I was like, what?
Oh, I know.
Like, what?
Like anyone over 35.
I just thought he'd be like a little more than that, like 40-ish something. I
remember like Auron and Cid in Final Fantasy 7. They're so young.
Well, it's the same with Instructor Sarah in Trails, where they're talking about how like old she is, and it's like 26 or something.
Oh yeah.
She's like talking about retirement or something. Like I couldn't believe it, or too old to fight or something. And I was like, oh my god.
That's just cruel. I mean, we're in perfectly good shape until we hit 35, and then our joints all explode. That's fair.
Yeah. Well, I've only got a few months left of my 30s, so I'm trying to.
So young. You guys, like children. Oh, another one.
So,
go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I won't say how old I am then for yours.
I'm definitely older than you, so don't worry. yeah, one of the other funny type dev things was Cheryl's hair. What color do you think Cheryl's hair is?
Lavender, lilac.
Kind of purplish, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have said like purple.
There was a line during one of the battles, and a character refers to her as azure-haired, like blue-haired. And I looked at this for a while, I'm like, I'm really confused. I can't see it. It's like, I think this is purple. And I posed it to everyone else on the team, and we had varying degrees of kind of bluish, kind of purple. And we got to ask the dev team, which is what makes this project amazing. You can ask these kind of really strange questions.
Yeah.
And they also were sort of like, purple, I guess? And it was just sort of the scene itself was shaded in red a bit, so the color looked a bit blue there. But I mean, you can get clarification like that in this game, which was really unusual. You don't usually get to ask these kind of things.
Yeah. What is azure a color in Japanese? Like, I always see it in Japanese games, and I've never actually like Googled why it's such a common phrase.
It's just that lovely, rich, bluey green.
Like
I'm sure you've... Yeah, kind of. I'm sure you've heard that thing in Japanese, that the difference between blue and green is sort of not really there. Like, they'll often say a blue light for, like, a green light. It's just, the distinction isn't as sharp as it is in English. So we often run into this problem. Other games have had it where they say, that green-haired guy and he's got blue hair. When English speakers are playing, they're like, Again, that's why you need context as a localizer, because you can't really tell in file what's correct. We had one of the roofs in the game, we had to give some sort of hint to how to get to Leo's house in Vibra. And it was like, his house has the green roof. And I'm like, all these houses have green roofs. I'm really confused. This is the game where I found out that I'm colorblind or something. I could not make the distinction. Apparently it's green and everything else is sort of blue. But
oh, really?
Yeah. It's one of those things.
Well, that's one of the things with the I think this was just recently on Twitter that there's been this weird complaining about how a lot of the localizations aren't using literal translations. And I'm looking at it like, why would I want a literal translation? Like, there's so many cultural things, or like even pop culture things that just don't make any sense to anyone, like in the West. Like, if they're, like you said, like something like that, like you said, like with the color distinction, like if you're doing it literally, then there's context that we're missing on our end.
Yeah.
So the argument towards like localizers, change, not changing, but providing a better description or better translation, so that the audience that's getting it is like in better understanding or whatever.
Yeah, I think we're not doing our job if you guys aren't getting what the team is intending. Literal just doesn't work.
I do have like some games where it's like, because of the kind of jokes references, I'll be like, I wonder if like the Japanese had the same kind of thing, because it's very like modern. Like, I think like in like AI Somnium and like some other visual novel, I was like, well, I know like this is because they say like in a different other game they say like neat, so I know that is like a Japanese thing. But it's just like, it's interesting when it's more than one thing, because I'm like, I'm wondering if they're using like some kind of other internet slang or something.
Yeah.
But I don't know, because I don't know that. But it makes me wonder. Yeah. Or like, I know sometimes like things might have to swap over a reference, because if it's not outside of Japan, it's not going to be much good. So they're like, I'd wonder what if it's the same. They talk about the same thing, because like Western things do get referenced in like Japanese media, obviously. So it's interesting.
You do,
I just want to know sometimes what
what it means. And sometimes you get reverse things, like a lot of Japanese devs, like for instance, I love Skyrim. Like, there are Skyrim references in lots of RPGs, but when you translate it directly, like he took an arrow to the knee and stuff, people think you're adding in stuff. But Japanese devs do play Western games. It goes both ways.
I'm a big Skyrim fan myself too, so.
I'm still playing. I haven't finished. My game save is from like 2011. Still going.
I think I tried it on the Switch, and my friends were like, watching you play this is painful. So I was like doing like third person, so I wouldn't get motion sick, and I was just doing everything wrong apparently, because I'd never played those before.
Were you just hoarding cheese? Because that's what I do. I just collect cheese in buckets.
No, I think I need to reset myself, because I was trying to do like magic and sword, but I I wanted to wear like the amiibo clothes, so like I had like light armor on, and I probably should have had heavy armor because if a two-handed person charge attacks me, it's just instant death.
My guilty pleasure is hoarding books. Like I'll try to find all the books in Skyrim and then build a library in the house.
Do you read all the books?
Yeah, I try. Like some of them are so long. It's like you could spend hours just reading the book.
You're my hero.
But,
is that with the Wabberjack? The Wabberjockey? Is that one of the ones from Skyrim?
Yeah.
I love that book.
Yeah, yeah, and then they're like, well, and the fact that there's volumes too just makes it worse because I'm like, okay, if I've got volume like 1, 2, and 4, I gotta find 3. Like, how do I not? Like, it's on the shelf. Like, how do I not find 3? Like this. So like Google it and find out what
gotta hope that
little tiny cave in the middle of nowhere is hiding this one book.
Right. You just gotta hope that like no one makes an RPG where they have like a manga collection in the game or something, because you wouldn't progress the story if you're doing that, wouldn't you? You'd be trying to find everything.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's funny, the Skyrim, like I think I own about 5 copies of Skyrim on like the different consoles and stuff, and I have it on my Switch, and my son recently was like looking through things to play, and he's like, "Oh, what's the Skyrim?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's a pretty fun game. Give it a try." And then it was like a few minutes later, my wife was like, "What's in that game?" And then my son was like, "There's this guy's bleeding. What's going on?" And I'm like, "Okay, maybe you better shut up."
Let him play Dragon Age, where he gets the nugs.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I'm looking forward. He's picked up a few. He actually enjoys the NES version of Final Fantasy. He's played a little bit of that, so I'm looking forward to him getting old enough to start to enjoy RPGs and be allowed to play a lot of them, since so many are mature. Might need a few more years.
Fantasian's a good option.
Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Only nothing bad like that aside from talking about panty snatchers, I guess. Aside from that bit.
Yeah. Some of the lines are pretty good. Quiet down, panty snatchers. Panty pinchers.
Yeah. Yeah. But when my sister is a fair bit younger than me, and when she was like a little toddler, her parents were watching something and like that was graphic, and then she woke up and like shouted like "saucy hands" because the guy's like got like blood all over his hands or something. So then they used to like say "saucy hands," like, oh, she can't watch that because it's
saucy hands.
Yeah, like tomato sauce.
Tell me, what was your favorite area? I mean, we talked a little bit about the dioramas, but I do think they're sort of like the key part of this game.
Yeah, I like the indoor areas because they're very dollhousey, and like you said, there was like that fish where I saw it cut open. I was just like, oh, it's so detailed. I did like vents because actually when you drained the water and I could see the dirt on that, I really liked how that looked. I thought the forest was really pretty, but I think I like the area you're in last the most. It kind of, because of the colouring and sort of the white on top, it makes me think sort of like desserts, and I know it's not food, but it kind of does.
Funny you should say that. There's a snowy area that's sort of in the northwest. When you get a chance to get to it and stuff, the water looks like edible sapphire jello. It's so delicious looking.
I was gonna say, I have seen people do fancy cakes before, so I'm sure someone could like do a cake version of somewhere in Fantasian.
Like have the chaos serpent coming out of it. Oh, that'd be great.
Oh.
Do we have any bakers want to do a chaos cake?
I'm sure they're using fondant, or I guess is that what it's called? That'd be a great thing for the dev team to use on the diorama, because it'd be like, okay, one for this building, and then a little for me to keep me going.
You'd have a very smelly diorama after a bit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I guess.
Oh, imagine like got cool rooms. One you'd have to put in a cool room or something. Wouldn't be very good to get photos of.
Yeah, I liked a lot of those places too. I guess that's the funny thing about Fantasian was it seemed like one of those games where it kind of started a bit slow, both because N was almost like the least the least interesting, I guess, because it's just kind of like a sandy area. And I know I actually had a couple friends that started it, and they're like, I kind of stopped. I didn't get at an end, and I'm like, what do you mean you missed like the best part of the game? And he was telling me about how boring it looked and stuff. I'm like, you're insane. You didn't even get out of the sand level. And but yeah, I think Vents. I think Vents was my favorite just because of it had so much variety in it. Like Paige said, you can drain the water and you can walk around down there, and it's probably one of the bigger areas. But then when you go into the part of town where the Mechterra took over, so you even get like that kind of you can see that the town is like being overrun. So you've got like the evil area there, and then you get back over, and then I guess like you can go in the canoes or the I don't know what they call them.
Gondola.
Gondolas, yeah. So you have like a couple areas there, and then there was like the merchant area in Venice on the one like bridge area, which is pretty neat. But
I know the tri-stars come out of like those graffiti wall bits, but now I just imagine them like in real life gondolas you've got the person and sometimes they sing. I just like imagine like that one of them sneaking up on you as the gondolier.
Yeah, they'd fit that good.
That cabin, the cabin in the forest though, like. I'm looking at that and I'm like, that's where I want to retire, is like exactly like a cabin like that in the middle of, this nice looking like log cabin-y area. So I enjoy being in there. I don't think we were in there very long, like the forest area. Or at least it seemed short. I wanted to be in there longer, I guess would probably be the way to put it.
Yeah, you touch on it a bit, but it's mostly just, you walk around a bit and then you get the novels. You get her sort of Scent of the Forest novels, which are lovely. I love the storybook inclusion they did for this. It's a nice little bit of world building. But yeah, the forest is really pretty with the butterflies. Oh,
yeah, exactly.
The little details.
The cruise ship is really beautiful too with the big piano. Like I even forgot about that.
Did you guys see the dancing crew members? If you come back inside, they're practicing their dance moves. It's pretty special. So people try to go back and check out these crew members dancing, because that's the stuff.
And I remember when I went to like that second fortune teller's house, I thought like she was going to be a fight or something. Until it was like no boys allowed. I'm like, oh, I guess not.
Our editor John Neal had so much fun with that bit. He kept coming back with versions. He's like, wait, I've perfected this. No boys allowed. A really good scene. Yeah, Vents is gorgeous. Like when you go in, as you said, the buildings, there are all those little fish touches. In the bar in Vents, the innocent eyes, they're individual bottles carved out that are like carefully put on the shelves. There's wine glasses. It's just so pretty. And if people, when they go to Vibra, if you get a chance to go back into Leo's house, look around, look at the carpets, and look at the paintings. Hint, hint. There's some very interesting stuff if you just check things out.
I didn't pay that much attention to it, but I did go back into the rooms because there was actually stuff in there, and I was like, ooh, like every time I see the sparkly, I'm like, grab mine. Actually, I think one of my favorite, I didn't do all the side quests, but I think my favorite was the posters. you put up all the posters and it's like, yeah, you've got a license.
They're like to tear them all down, but the city's beautiful again. It's just so random.
It's been nice following it on like people playing on Twitter, because even like this week, I think there was a couple instances. It's probably from when you retweeted them. Like there's one where they were showing like the Final Fantasy nods in the game. Like you'd see like the little nods. Like Sid is obviously the most obvious one, and it was very early on. But then like some of the mention of some of the devs, like where there was, I actually found I came across the Uematsu one when you read about it. I didn't know the Toriyama reference. Like that was new on Twitter. It was fun to see.
There's lots of little bits sprinkled.
So was it the one that you go into someone's house and they were talking about the musician or something?
Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh.
You'll find more mentions of him around too. There's lots of cute little nods to things. That's why it's it's a really comfortable game to play. It's not stressful, and it's interesting and fun, and I found it really relaxing to work on as well.
I did find the fight with the ton of fish to be a bit stressful.
Because there are just too many, or
fish or whatever. Yeah, that was probably. I think that's might have been the boss fight I tried the most times, but I think that was because I had a crash afterwards. I was like, no.
oh, it's got some good variety.
Yeah. And then when you finish it, they're like, oh, it's gonna be a bit more open, like in a quest base. I'm like, oh, that'll be interesting. I guess because like if the warp's fixed, then you can go more around.
They really encourage people to sort of explore the world, and there's just so many areas, and there's a lot of new areas too that I don't know. It's like candy. Everywhere you go, everywhere looks beautiful in different ways. The dust on the ancient path. Was it the barn end? If you look up at the ceiling, the crystals, there are little crystals hanging from the ceiling. Touch after touch. It really, I think it adds this layer to the game. Like you can feel the care that they put into it, and it's really nice. It's a very comforting game.
I think one thing I think I got sick of in the game was I forget that they're actually called, but like the little like goblins and the cauldron-y type things. I ended up like where you throw stuff at them. I thought that was really cool at first. But eventually, like, I kept running, so I just be like, escape. Like, when I realized I could just run away, I was like, oh, this is easy.
Yeah, they're a good option for jewels, but yeah, you don't need to always engage them.
I'm hoping, like, in part 2, I'm assuming that a lot of the areas that, like, will end up going back to the same areas, like, they wouldn't there won't be this whole new thing or whatever. So, I felt like the time in the capital city, like, could have used some more time exploring around there. Like I felt like by the time I got there, I don't know if it just felt a little bit rushed trying to get through. Like I felt like I was missing some of the details there. Like maybe I was just excited to get to Leo's house, I guess, and ran through the city a little too fast. But
yeah,
it'd be neat to do some quests. Like that's what hearing that there's going to be more quests. I think is nice because it gives you that motivation to, it's like, okay, go do this thing, and maybe you wouldn't see something as detailed as you would have necessarily without the quest.
Yeah, the second half is definitely it's less linear, more quest based, and you can sort of really check things out. If you do go back to Vibra, go into the apartment buildings. There's floors and floors in these buildings, and you can go in some of those rooms. And they're worth checking out. I
went into like the hotel and some stuff like that, but like the locked doors, and I'm like, no. Let me in. Give me the master key. I need to pinch your stuff.
Yeah, that's something else you do. You got, collect your keys, open the chests all over the place. There's a lot of good incentives to explore right now, or it will be in part 2.
Well, yeah, I guess that's the thing. Is it seemed like there was like hundreds of chests that couldn't be opened yet. It just felt like a big tease again too.
I remember like there was one chest in one of the toy boxes, and it's like, "Are you sure you want to open this?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then it was instantly bad idea.
John sent me the text for that, and it was so funny. It was just like, open the ominous, foreboding yet strangely tempting sealed chest. It's open. Death.
Yeah. So I gotta get back to him. I gotta find the shell, because that little girl's being very rude about my shell picking ability.
She's so blunt. She's like, I guess some people just can't buy taste.
Yeah.
Like, damn, kid.
Yeah. Although I will say I do like the desert town. Because like, well, I mean, here where I live it's more red dirt, but like, it reminds me of like there's like some sand hills you can go to, and I like the look of it.
I like the color contrast. Like Owen's house has these beautiful banners, and it's nice against the sand, and it feels sad. It's a sad town, but it's really pretty in some ways.
Well, it has a pub, so it has everything it needs.
I love that pub. If I could have any diorama, it's the pub that I want.
Well, maybe there'll be a extra special collector's merch. It's just like 100 copies of like diorama.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Sell for like $2,000 each or something.
They'd be worth buying. I mean, even the shops, like the shop in N, there's like a crystal case full of like little seashells and balls, and there's giant swords hanging on the wall. Hint, hint. All the little touches are just amazing in this game.
So yeah, once I've taken care of more important real life things, I'm like, I think I need to start doing the miniatures thing, because it's something I've been wanting to do for a long time and just sort of almost forgot about until playing this game.
Oh, I'm so glad it's re-inspired that.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Well, when you finally get to head up to Mistwalker to see the dioramas and that sort of thing, you just bring something to create a diversion so that you can just pop it off.
Well, you just get the baker to replicate it, and then you top it over with the cake.
I'll ask for that for my 40th birthday. I'll be like, I would like a tavern cake based on this.
Yeah.
Well, that'd be a good project for just take a screenshot right off your iPad and.
This is what I'd like.
This is it.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, well, I guess while we're on the topic of some other games that we're enjoying, I wanted to ask you, like, I know one of the things, like, I recently discovered the Trails, like the Trails series. I think this was a year or two ago when I played Trails in the Sky, and I know it took me this long to find it. And Trails, well, and the funny thing is Trails in the Sky 1 and 2, like first chapter and second chapter, they are my favorite games now. Like I've gone through my entire life. Yeah, the Final Fantasy franchise has always been there. It's been like it has the nostalgia bubble too, like because like that's the game I grew up with. Like that's the game I always go back to. So to be 39 now and then discover a new game I never played before, and now like absolutely love. Like I've played Trails in the Sky, the first chapter, a couple times now. Waiting for the other games to get localized.
Sorry.
played through well, that's okay. I played through Trails of Cold Steel a couple times now. And
started a cult in the Discord.
Yes, yeah, I know. I got a lot of our listeners hooked onto that series too, so it's fun to see them going through it. I've started Trails from Zero, and recently purchased Trails to Azure, so I'll be looking forward to them. Those of the Crossbell arc, I guess, is what I got left before. Hopefully, NIS America lets us know about the next localizations. Hopefully, but one of the things that makes me think about that is that there must be like tons of games in Japan that either like they just don't get any. We don't hear about them over here, or if they do get localized, sometimes they don't get the same kind of promotion or anything like that, or they just never get localized, and there's these great games that might exist that we just never find out about. And I was curious if there's anything like with you being in Japan and speaking the language, if you've come across any like hidden gems that maybe we should keep our eyes out, or we should start banging the drum on a localizer to be like, go get that game.
I mean, it's actually been a bit hard here because of the pandemic and stuff, none of the shows have happened. There's no Bit Summit, Tokyo Game Show, nothing. So in terms of recent games, I mean, I've been snowed under with work. I haven't really read too much of the Famitsu. I mean, there is a game that I'm desperate for people to demand come over, though. Genso Suikoden. Do you know this game?
Oh, really?
Have you heard of this?
I know Suikoden, but I don't know if this is this in that franchise?
It is, and no, it's never been localized officially, and it is a visual novel spin-off.
Oh,
really? And it has been in limbo, and I don't know what chances there are, but I'm sure if millions of people, and I'm sure millions of people are ready to play this game, that's something I think should come over. Genso Suikoden.
What company should we be stalking on Twitter for that one?
Brace yourself. Konami.
Oh, no.
I know.
Maybe we should bug Limited Run then, because they seem to have snatched a few Castlevanias out of them for however.
And they've published I think they've published a couple of VMs now, because they do like the physical, but then also sometimes like on the eShop there'll be a game they're actually the publisher for it. So there's the Fata Morgana one, I think. Some other games. Yeah. That
is one to go for. I think for the sake of society, that's how important this game is. Suikoden's very important, and this has never been done, and it should come over.
And just to clarify, like the process for like listeners and stuff, like my understanding is that so you have like the Japanese publisher that's made the game, and obviously it would be in Japanese, and let's say they don't want to localize it themselves. Like there's companies that come along, like NIS America, I guess, would come along and say like, we want to publish your game, in other countries or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be that company. It would be on that company to hire the localizer, I believe, right?
On the Western parts? On the Western part?
Yeah, well, let's use Trails for example. Like the localized people who are localizing the new Trails, like assuming NIS America is doing it still,
Mm-hmm.
like the localizers would be employed or hired or contracted or whatever by NIS America, right?
Yeah, I mean, most publishers like Xseed or NIS, they've got in-house localizers. So they don't really need, I mean, for big text-heavy games like Trails, yes, you're probably going to need a bit more freelance muscle. But they'd be the ones handling it. They would talk to the Japanese developer, get the license for a game, get in communication, get the text sent over. The localizers would localize it. It'd be sent, generally, it'd be sent back to the dev team to implement into the game. The dev team would send the publisher, like Xseed, a build. It'd be tested for QA, for ESRB ratings, whatever. Sent back, finalized, and then submitted, usually by the Western publisher for first party, like Sony. So it's a lot of going back and forth.
Okay, yeah, that's what, because I've had people where they're like, we need to tweet at Falcom to get the game, and I'm like, no, you're not tweeting at the right company.
It's a 50-50. If a Japanese developer realizes there's interest in the West, they'd be more probably open to having a game localized. So it's not a waste of time to say, we'd like your game to come over here. They'd be more receptive to a publisher from the West approaching them to publish a game. But yeah, you'd hit both, ideally, I'd say.
I do like especially with like the Switch and PC, more games are coming to regions that they weren't before. Because, sometimes, they're not having an English one, like that Moon RPG got its first English translation last year. But then there's some other games that Square Enix has done re-releases of where they came out in like Japan and America, but they never came out in the PAL regions. That's Europe, Australia, and some other countries. And then them doing this re-release means that some of these countries are actually able to access the game for the first time.
Yeah,
so
Steam.
It's not just so even like things that had English translations didn't get to other parts. Yeah.
Yeah, Steam's made a lot of things possible. And in Steam's case, it's kind of easier to get your own programmer, so you don't have to rely on the dev team. You can offer a dev team full service. You say, not only will we localize your game, but we can also implement it ourselves. So Steam's been great for that kind of thing. Usually, or generally, I guess you have to rely on the dev team to do it. So Steam's been great for bringing over a lot more. And for testing, especially as a freelancer.
Well, before we end, though, I know that you're working on a game yourself, Jessica. I don't know if you're allowed to, or if you want or allowed to talk anything about it before.
Do you mean my personal game or the other projects?
No, the library. You got the neat.
Oh, my poor little game. Yes, I'm trying hard to fit making a game in between projects, and it's a nice sort of little creative outlet. It's just a very simple pixel 3-room library. So there's a lot of books. I was so happy when you said, you collect the books in Skyrim, because that's my audience.
Well, it's when you first posted that picture of the like the chair in front of the fireplace with like the books everywhere. Like if I ever won, my thing is like if I ever won the lottery, my dream house would be like this great big tower in the middle of the house, and it's just like looks just like that, where there's like fireplace that goes up, and there's like 3 levels of just books. Just wrapped around it, and then the rest of the house could just go around it, because I wouldn't care at that point. I'll just set up a hammock or something and just live in there. Like video game room kind of off to the side, and then all the books around.
I'm so with you. Like, I'm gonna spend all my money on just creating. Once I actually get a house, I have to have a fireplace and a library. That's just everything I like about the coziness, the color. Books are art, and they just look beautiful.
Yeah, well, that's what my basement is like, just to the point where it's almost, the walls are getting to the point where they're just all books.
Yes.
Like, we haven't gone in a couple years because of the pandemic, but usually in May, our local library sells, like, has a book sale.
Oh.
And it's just, I don't know where they get the books. I think they're just, people donate books, and you just, like, they sell them for $1 or 50 cents or something. And so I tried using one of those on my Mac. I downloaded one of those catalog things where, like, you can scan the barcode and it puts, like, the book into like a digital library, so that, like, you can just bring it up on your phone. And because, like, after the first couple years, I realized I was buying, like, triplicate copies of some books. I, like, forgot I had I don't remember if I got this, and just in case I'm going to take it anyway.
I haven't done it with books, but with something, say, like an amiibo, because there'll be one I'm thinking about buying for a while but don't get it, and then I get it and realize I've bought one because it's just in something I've been thinking about buying for so long, and then when I pick it up, I still have that mindset of thinking, like, oh, I'll get it later, and realized I already got it. But yeah, having apps is good to track everything.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I'm just waiting for, like, everything in the world seems to be, like, becoming, like, this collector's thing where, like, you'll be able to, at some point, you'll have, like, this collection of something that'll be worth all this money, and one of these days, novels and books will be worth something again one day.
Well,
I think they're worth everything.
You see, like, out of print books and how much they try to sell for on, like, Amazon. I'm like, oh no. Like, there's some book I was sort of interested in, like some English book on Nobunaga, and it's always like $500, $800, $300. It's like, no.
Well, even, like, the last time I went to the library sale, they had art of the Louvre, and it was just basically, like, pictures of, like, full. It's a really big book. I don't know, like 11 by 14, something like that. Pretty big book, and it was just, like, full page colored pictures of, like, all the art and statues and everything that in the Louvre. And it was $1, and I was like, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, like, this is a steal. Like, this probably cost some poor person like $100 and some dollars, or back in the day. And it's like, yeah, I guess I could Google the pictures, but it's right there. Like, it's, like, in my hand. I don't have to search for it. Everything's there. And another one of the other great grabs was my wife is really interested in Jacqueline Kennedy. And Sotheby's, like, when she passed away, like, wherever years ago, like, there was an auction for all her stuff, and Sotheby's actually had, like, this thick, like, telephone book of it was basically, like, everything that she owned before she died. It was pictures of it, and then, like, little descriptions of, like, where she got it, what it was, and everything. And the interesting is, like, well, like, I wonder if something like this even exists. Like, would it even be on the internet? Like, this seems like something worth owning,
we need a Fantasian art book. we need all the photos. Just about to say, I don't know if you collect art books, but David, but I was looking at so, like, they do, like, them for, like, say, Final Fantasy 14, and I saw how many were releasing this year, and it's just like, that's too many. Because, like, I usually get them because you get little mount codes or minion codes or something. So it's just like, I can't afford to get them all.
A Fantasian art book would be amazing. I'm sure you guys have seen some of just the sketches, the concept sketches for the game. It's
I do find
so
a lot
good.
of games, I want to see the background art more, and, like, a lot of the art books are like, here's the characters and all their weapons. I'm like, it's interesting, but I want to see the background. I want to see the pretty locations and pretend I'm there.
Well, Fantasian's definitely a prime candidate for this because, man, they've got so much great art. I try to post stuff on my Twitter that shows, the concept stage to the to the diorama to the in-game model. Like, it's just amazing how they integrated them. Like, I've never seen anything like this. Like, it's a really unique game.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've been trying to convince as many people as I can to get it. It's I know the biggest roadblock seems to be that it's on an Apple device. Like whether I'm talking to people or even like seeing online and stuff, it seems like that's the biggest hurdle. It seems to be is that people have this hang up about it being on Apple Arcade. And I know, like for me, I'm of the older generation and who always likes to have a controller in my hand and stuff, and so I've never been a proponent of like mobile or or those types of games. I've always been very resistant of them, and but I know like playing this one, like it's I don't know if people have this idea that it's a mobile game, because it's not really. It's just a really good video game on like that Apple published. Like it's just it's worth finding, like whether like with Paige, like you borrowed an iPad to play it. Like it's worth borrowing. Like find someone with an iPad, find someone with an Apple TV. Like don't wait for Switch, because it's not coming anytime soon if it ever does. So like get it on. Find a way to get an Apple product.
Like I don't really like mobile games, but this doesn't really feel like one. It's just a game that they made. But being on the iPad, the arcing and the controls are much better. I think it really suits the style of the game. And yeah, I had to borrow my mom's iPad to play the game because I don't own any Apple devices myself.
I was the same. I had to borrow my husband's iPad. Like I've never played any games on my iPhone. The only reason I have one of these is because this is my husband's old iPhone 5. I don't know. I had a flip phone for most of my life. But people have this misconception about mobile games that they're gotcha, you have to put money into them, they're really kind of cheap little short distractions. But Fantasian is a very much a full RPG. Like the first part's 20 hours minimum. The second part's even bigger. It's a proper RPG, and it's really fun to play. So I'd love if more people gave it a chance.
Well, and the cost is astronomically low for a game of that quality. Like, first of all, you can if you haven't had Apple Arcade before, you can get the first month free. But even then, like Apple Arcade is only like $6. Like it's shocking how low it is.
It's like Australian. It was like $8. So I think my mum got charged about $16 because it took me a while to finish. But there's other cool stuff on that service too. So
yeah, even then it's a steal. Like the quality of games they're putting on it I think it's worth the entry price. Even for people who don't like mobile, I'd give it a shot and try it, because I think they'll be a bit surprised.
Yeah, like I never would have subscribed to Apple Arcade if Fantasian hadn't come, and now I'm like after the first month, I just left it because I'm like there are other games. I ended up playing World's End Club.
Oh yeah.
On Apple Arcade. I also downloaded. I didn't realize it even existed as Oregon Trail. There's an updated version of it.
I saw that's on there too.
Yeah,
classic.
And
I played the original version back in elementary school, so it was like to see like they have this new version of it that's actually updated to be what's the wording more sensitive to the to like the indigenous population.
A good update, I'd say.
Yeah.
I saw this like some like Lego puzzle game that recently just got ported to other systems now. But with Apple Arcade, you don't, because like say Australian dollars, it's like $30, but if on the Apple Arcade, it's like $8 to play it.
Right. Yeah. It's amazing, and there's like World of Demons, Cozy Grove. You said you were playing.
I don't know if that's on the arcade thing. I just said because it was touchscreen, like on the Switch.
Well, I mean, it's a big library, and it's only growing, and it's such a small entry, $5 for a game like this. We're talking Sakaguchi, Uematsu, like all
beautiful dioramas.
Everything you loved. I know. Just to see the dioramas in motion, I think is worth the entry price. But
well, and it's made me discover how beautiful the iPad screen can be.
Ooh.
Like watching Fantasian on that, I started streaming. Like Steam has a Steam Link where you can actually play your Steam games on an iPad with a controller. So I actually played through Trails in the Sky second chapter completely on my iPad.
Wow.
with the PS4 controller, and like having that in like full high def on the iPad, like because the iPad just makes everything like it just glows, like it just looks incredible. And so it was kind of this weird, because I know like everyone enjoys like with the Switch, like it was this wonderful new thing where it's like you walk around your house and you got this lovely screen and everything, but like the iPad screen just blows it out of the water. It's not even close, and to be able to connect like you're just regular console controllers to the device. Like even now, like I have a PS5 and an Xbox Series X, and Apple just put out updates that you can connect those controllers to this iPad as well now. And
I never had much use for a tablet myself, but after playing Fantasian with the iPad, I'm kind of like, I kind of want one. They're a bit too expensive for me though. But
it's really nice to hear. I'll let the dev team know, because they worked really hard to make the interface feel smooth, and I think they outdid themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think their control's really good. Other than when my hand twitches, sometimes something goes off. But I do like you've got the bin as well, so if you mess up where you point your screen, nope, not that.
In the bin.
Yeah.
Definitely the best touch controls I've ever used on the.
And definitely.
They convinced the old guy to switch off the controller, so they must have did something right.
And the art was like what made me want to play the game. Like that was the main interest to me. So yeah.
It's a full package, especially if people want something a little more nostalgic but not grindy.
Or it's like, it's fun to do it. Like we've talked about, like when you just unleash on a ton of them at once rather than fighting 3 guys at once. You've got like 10 out at a time.
Yeah, when you hit those gimmicks too, it's all very satisfying.
So we've gone over Fantasian in your own game. Are there any other projects that you wanted to bring up before?
Yeah, actually, it's been quite a busy year. It's been really a lot of variety this year. There's a movie coming out called Belle. Do you know Studio Chizu? They did Mirai. What's the other one? Summer Wars.
Oh yeah, I love Summer Wars. That's like one of my favorite movies.
Well, this is their most recent one, and it's coming out in July to theater. So I got to do some of the pre-production stuff on it, and it's gorgeous, and the music is amazing. So I highly recommend that. There's
while you're thinking, there's a game that Paige just played that she loved that you localized, Mineral Town.
Oh wow!
Oh yeah, was that last year? It came out. I don't know. Anyway, I reviewed that one, so I was really happy about to play that. Because I started with Harvest Moon DS, but I did pick up like the Mineral Town on GBA, and like playing the remake was really fun.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'd just come back from child leave after my second kid, and I had worked on Rune Factory 4 Special, and then Mineral Town came up almost right on the heels of that. So it feels like a long time ago for me, but I'm still hearing people playing it. It's lovely to hear that people have enjoyed it. There was a lot of work put into that, let me tell you. Whew.
Yeah, because that would have had to have been a new translation, wasn't it?
Yep, everything was completely redone.
It's probably good because there was like some errors in the original English. So. It was funny, like, because I played it before, but like on the new one, like the entire time I actually didn't know that game had Harvest Sprite. So when I walked up past the church, I was like, "Are you serious?" I could have had these guys like how long ago? Yeah. Yeah, and I like the what was like I think the first one in the series that's done same-sex marriage as well.
Yep.
Yeah, so I still end up going with Rick because he's the easiest to please. Like, you grab an egg, you go to the spa, you throw it in, boom, that's his favorite gift. So I got married by like autumn, but
dang, that is fast.
In those games, it's like that's my goal.
Get married.
It's ported, and all these games come to PC as well. So
for sure.
Yeah, there was a recent sale on GOG for Falcom games, so I picked up Xanadu next.
Yes. Sorry, I loved doing Xanadu next. My childhood favorite game was Faxanadu, and they're only, slightly related, at least in name and stuff, but it was such a dream to get to work on it, and did it feel very refreshing to play this extremely simple yet intriguing game.
Oh, I just downloaded it, so I haven't gotten to it yet, but I'm looking forward to it, because it's playing the Trail series. I started to get into Eves. So I played like Eves 9 and really love that. And I'm like, okay, I'm obviously a Falcom person. So when they had the Falcom sale, I'm like, okay, what don't I own yet?
Awesome.
And I got Xanadu next. And there was another one related to Xanadu, I think. Oh, what's the other one? there was two I bought. There was Xanadu Next, and I can't remember the other one. It was like someone told me it was like a mix of Eves and Trails, and as soon as they said that, I purchased it.
Is this Tokyo Xanadu?
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got both of them at the same time.
I worked on that one, but only a very little bit. Like I was just sort of like a support role and stuff like that. But that was, you'll find a few ties into the other games in that one. And I heard the combat's really fun, which is what people were talking about for the new Trails action-esque combat. It's similar to that.
Okay. Yeah, I have a friend, one of the listeners in our Discord. Me and him are like the Falcom pushers these days. So,
yay!
So he's going through it all. I think Tokyo Xanadu is the one he just recently played, but I'm pretty I know that he bought Xanadu Next, so he'll be playing that soon too.
I'm so happy to hear
he's
that.
Working his way through Trails to Azure right now. So
amazing. I did think of the last project I wanted to mention. It's I think out of RPG scope, but it's an anime 2D fighter that I've been helping out with lately. It's called Omnia, Phantom Breaker Omnia.
Okay, I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know that one.
Previous game.
It's from a new publisher called Rocket Panda Games. They've brought back to life this fighter from a while ago that never quite made it over, and it's been completely revamped, and it's really cool. Like they did all new voiceover, and it's really fun to play. It's had a massive upgrade. So that's what I think people should check out.
That's good. Which platform is that on?
All the platforms.
Oh, all the platforms.
It's really ambitious.
Is that out now or?
Not yet. It's coming out later this year, and the team, because of COVID, I think it's been quite a bit of a struggle. So I really want to give the team some support because they've put everything into this, and it is just fun. It's fun to play. Okay, cool. Yeah, we actually started we do have a second podcast that we just started. That's the everything RPG plus, I guess you would say. So yeah, we can keep an eye out on that one and pick it up later when it comes out, covered on there. Yeah, definitely. Alrighty. Well, that'll do it for this week's episode on possibly the first half of the last game from Hironobu Sakaguchi, which kind of makes me cry. I can't believe hearing those guys. I understand, like, I guess they're getting up there in years, and I'm sure this has been quite a big production. So I can see if, hearing him say that this might be it makes sense, but it still makes me a little bit sad. So just another reason to pick it up, I guess. But thrilled that you were able to join us, Jessica, and provide insight into the development of the title. And it's always good to see there's always seems to be like this curtain between like the developers and the players, and so much misinformation about how things get made, and expectations versus reality and that sort of thing. So it's always nice to hear from developers on how things get made, so that we can better understand there's actual people making these games and working hard, so lots of people in lots of different time zones, especially right now. But yeah, it was great to be on. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to get to shed a little light and convince more people to play this amazing game, because it really is. It's pretty special, and I think people are missing out on it if they don't give it a shot. Mm-hmm. And if people wanted to follow you, you have a Twitter account, if you want to let us know, so that... I do. It's at HProtagonista, and I have a box on my head, so I'm hard to miss. I know there's been... If you need any convincing on Fantasian, if you need to see some more screenshots, I know you've got some retweets out there, so people can look up those too. So I will definitely be posting more, because there's a lot more to come in part 2. Yeah, perfect. And Paige, is there anything up on your YouTube channel, or any reviews that you're allowed to talk about coming out soon?
So I'll have another review on RPG site soon, but I can't say what the game is. But probably by the time this goes up, it might be there. And then I might try to make a video of it for my YouTube. I've changed my channel name to Paige G Guy, which is what I've got on all my social medias, like Twitter and that now. It's a bit easier to find. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. And I guess I'm just following up on some games, trying to get through the backlog. We mentioned a few, trying to get through some Trails games. Paige has got me hooked on Final Fantasy 14. I just finished A Realm Reborn. You're never coming back. Half an hour ago. Yeah. No, that's what Casey is another one of the people on our podcast, and he used to play World of Warcraft. Oh God. And
there's been a bit of a lull. I guess their latest DLC came out a few 8 months ago, and they haven't done any updates since. So he needed his MMO kick, and now that he's discovered he's got Final Fantasy 14 on his PlayStation 5 when they had the free trial, the critically acclaimed free trial with the expansion.
They got him.
Yeah, so they got us hooked in. I think they sucked me in when they gave me Dragoon armor. So now that I'm walking around like this giant black tank, I'm pretty happy with the way my character looks.
Do you have your belly out, or was that just the girls one?
Sorry?
Do you have your belly out, or is that just the girls one where they've got like not even the whole belly, but like the midsection?
Oh, no. I had so the Dragoon armor came in like two phases. Yeah. One is they give you like everything except the chest plate, and then so when I originally had like the gauntlets and the boots and the helmet and everything, I needed to find something to put on my chest. So I got I had like a pirate's it was like a puffy pirate shirt, and it had like a V completely open. So he had like, so I have this like massive dragon person walking around, and he, this great big black armor, and like his face is covered in stuff, but he had like his chest hanging out of his shirt. So
bit of cleavage.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, just showing the muscles that you don't want to mess with. So, but yeah, right before I finished Realm Reborn, I finished the Dragoon class job quest. So I ended up getting they give you the chest plate for that armor, but then there's like a secondary like complete set of armor that they give you, which they specifically said I wasn't allowed to wear in the dungeon, but I wore it anyway, and it didn't kick me out. So I felt pretty good going into that final battle, and I kind of misjudged how long the end movie was going to be, because it was like right around when the kids were supposed to go to bed. So my wife came down and was like, "Are you going to say goodnight to the kids anytime soon?"
No.
I'm like, but the credits are still going.
They had to make those cutscenes unskippable because they're so long that people that were playing it for the first time, like the fight would be over by the time they'd be halfway through the stage and the fight would be over. And then usually whenever there's like an event, like there's some of those Moogle treasure trove or something, that's usually the thing that gives you the most reward to encourage other players to actually do it so that the new people can beat it. I think it has its own roulette too as well. Yeah. So like some people
it lets you speed up the credits so that like you could make the credits go faster, but the problem there is that it gets through the music quicker, which was because they got some pretty nice end music there too. So I guess we better finish it up before we get too off the path with Final Fantasy 14. We could add another hour and a half just talking about that. So thank you very much, Jessica, for joining us on this podcast, and thanks, Paige, for joining us as well. And we'll see everyone out at the next Thirsty Mage.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.